The vast, sprawling galactic empire stretched across countless star systems, a monolithic civilization that had brought order and prosperity to millions of worlds. For centuries, the empire's fleets of sleek warships and legions of disciplined soldiers had crushed any who dared to defy its unrelenting authority. No one could challenge the might of the imperial war machine, or so they believed. In the outermost reaches of the galaxy, a lone imperial scouting vessel drifted silently through the void, its sensors sweeping the surrounding systems for signs of life. The crew, hardened veterans of countless campaigns, were confident in their ability to navigate the treacherous unknown. Little did they know that they were about to make a discovery that would shake the very foundations of the Galactic Empire. It began with a faint blip on the ship's long-range scanners, an anomaly unlike anything the crew had encountered before. Intrigued, the captain ordered his navigators to plot a course towards the mysterious signal. As the scouting vessel drew closer, the crew's excitement gave way to a sense of unease. The readings were unlike anything they had ever seen. Advanced technology, complex energy signatures, and a sprawling network of settlements dotting the surface of a seemingly unremarkable planet. "By the Emperor, what is this place?" the captain muttered, his brow furrowed in concentration. The navigator's fingers flew across the console, analyzing the incoming data. "Sir, our scans have detected a previously unknown species. They appear to be humanoid in nature, with a level of technological sophistication far beyond what we would expect from a primitive civilization." The captain's eyes narrowed. "Humanoid, you say? Interesting. Have we made contact with them yet?" "Not directly, sir. Our attempts at communication have been met with no response. But we are detecting a vast network of settlements, as well as what appear to be military installations and defensive structures." A calculating smile crept across the captain's face. "Excellent. Prepare a diplomatic envoy. We shall make first contact with these humans and bring them into the fold of the Galactic Empire." With a nod, the navigator relayed the orders to the rest of the crew, and within hours, a sleek Imperial shuttle was gliding through the upper atmosphere of the alien world, its occupants preparing to engage with this new and intriguing species. As the shuttle touched down in a vast, bustling city, the Imperial delegation was met by a crowd of curious onlookers. The humans, as they were called, were an intriguing sight, taller and more muscular than the average Imperial citizen, with a range of skin tones and features that defied the Empire's typical standards of uniformity. The lead diplomat, a seasoned veteran of countless negotiations, stepped forward, his robes of office fluttering in the alien breeze. "Greetings, people of this world," he announced, his voice amplified by the shuttle's communication systems. "I am High Envoy Trellis, representative of the Galactic Empire. We have come in peace, seeking to make contact and extend the hand of friendship to your people." The crowd murmured, their expressions a mix of curiosity and trepidation. After a moment, a tall, broad-shouldered human stepped forward, his gaze unwavering. "I am General Varys, commander of the Unified Human Defense Forces. Welcome to our world, Envoy Trellis. We have been expecting you." Trellis blinked in surprise, taken aback by the human's directness. "Expecting us? I confess, we did not anticipate such a coordinated response. Perhaps we could adjourn to more private quarters to discuss the matter further." Varys nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Of course. Follow me, Envoy. We have much to discuss." As the Imperial delegation followed the human general through the bustling city streets, the captain of the scouting vessel watched from the shuttle's viewscreen, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Unexpected," he murmured, his fingers drumming against the armrest of his chair. "These humans are clearly more advanced than our initial scan suggested. This could prove to be a most interesting encounter." Little did the Imperial captain know, but the fate of the Galactic Empire was about to be irrevocably altered by this first contact with the enigmatic human species. The galaxy would never be the same again. The ornate conference hall was heavy with tension as the Imperial delegation and the human representatives faced off across the polished table. High Envoy Trellis, his robes of office impeccably pressed, cleared his throat and fixed the human general with a measured gaze. General Varys, on behalf of the Galactic Empire, I must express our sincere gratitude for the warm welcome you have extended to us. We are truly honored to be the first representatives of the Empire to make contact with your people. Varys, his muscular frame betraying no emotion, inclined his head slightly. The honor is ours, Envoy Trellis. We have long awaited the opportunity to engage with the civilizations beyond our own world. Trellis nodded, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Excellent. Then let us waste no time in discussing the matter at hand. As you are no doubt aware, the Galactic Empire is a vast and prosperous civilization, united under the benevolent rule of our Emperor. We have brought peace, stability, and prosperity to countless worlds. It is our hope that your people would be willing to join us in this grand endeavor. The human representatives exchanged glances, their expressions inscrutable. Finally, a woman with fiery red hair and piercing green eyes spoke up. Envoy Trellis, we appreciate the offer, but I must confess that we have some concerns about the nature of this empire you speak of. Trellis arched an eyebrow. Concerns? Pray elaborate, my dear. This benevolent rule you mention, the woman continued, her tone measured but firm. From what we have observed, it seems more akin to an iron-fisted dictatorship, where individual freedoms are sacrificed in the name of order and stability. We value our autonomy and the right to self-determination. Joining your empire would mean relinquishing those fundamental liberties. The Imperial Envoy's expression darkened. My dear, you fail to understand the true nature of the Galactic Empire. We have brought peace and prosperity to billions, lifting countless species from the depths of poverty and despair. Surely you cannot begrudge us a modicum of control in exchange for such bountiful gifts. Varys leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Control, Envoy Trellis. That is precisely what concerns us. We have no desire to be subsumed into your benevolent empire, to have our way of life dictated by distant bureaucrats. We are a proud and independent people, and we intend to remain so. Trellis bristled, his composure slipping for a brief moment. You dare to defy the will of the Emperor. Do you have any idea of the power we wield? The consequences of such insolence? The human representatives remained steadfast, unflinching in the face of the Imperial Envoy's rising ire. Varys spoke again, his voice calm and measured. We are well aware of the might of the Galactic Empire, Envoy Trellis, but we are also confident in our own abilities and the determination of our people. We have no desire for conflict, but we will not be cowed into submission either. Trellis opened his mouth to respond, but the words died on his lips as the realization dawned that these humans were unlike any species the Empire had encountered before. They were not cowering in the face of imperial authority, but standing their ground, defying the very notion of surrendering their autonomy. The conference hall descended into an uneasy silence, the air thick with tension. Trellis glanced around the table, his gaze lingering on the resolute expressions of the human delegates. Finally, he straightened his shoulders and spoke, his voice betraying a hint of uncertainty. Very well, General Varys. It seems we have much to discuss. I will convey your concerns to the Imperial leadership. In the meantime, I suggest we adjourn and continue our negotiations at a later time. As the Imperial delegation filed out of the conference hall, Varys and the human representatives exchanged knowing glances. The die had been cast, and the future of their world, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The Imperial flagship cut an imposing figure as it hung in the void, its sleek, angular lines and formidable armaments a testament to the might of the Galactic Empire. On the bridge, High Envoy Trellis stood before the holo display, his expression grim. The humans refused to capitulate, my lord, he reported, his voice laced with a hint of frustration. They have rejected our offer of integration into the Empire and have made it clear that they have no intention of submitting to our authority. The holographic image of the graying, stoic-faced Imperial legate flickered as he considered Trellis' words. "Unacceptable," he rumbled, his deep baritone voice resonating through the bridge. "The Empire cannot abide such insolence. These humans must be brought to heel, one way or another." Trellis nodded, his hands clasped behind his back. "I have relayed your concerns to the human leadership, my lord. They remain defiant, insisting on their right to self-determination and autonomy." The legate's eyes narrowed. "Then they leave us no choice. Prepare a formal ultimatum. Join the Empire or face annihilation. If they refuse to comply, we shall demonstrate the true power of the Imperial war machine." "It will be done, my lord." Trellis bowed stiffly, his expression betraying a hint of unease. "I must caution, however, that these humans have proven to be unexpected adversaries. Their technological capabilities exceed our initial assessments, and their willingness to resist our demands is unprecedented." The legate's lips curled into a sardonic smile. "Unexpected, you say? Then we shall simply have to meet their challenge with the full might of the Empire. Prepare the fleet for a decisive engagement. It is time these humans learn the error of their ways." Trellis nodded grimly, his mind already racing with the implications of this escalating conflict. As he relayed the legate's orders to the bridge crew, a sense of foreboding settled over him. These humans were no mere primitives to be easily cowed. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the Empire had underestimated them at its peril. Back on the human homeworld, General Varys stood before the assembled leaders of the unified defense forces, his expression grim. "The Imperial envoy has returned, and he bears a message from his superiors," he announced, his voice carrying a note of grim determination. "They have demanded that we surrender our autonomy and join the Galactic Empire, or face total annihilation." A murmur of discontent rippled through the assembled officers, their hands instinctively drifting towards the sidearms at their hips. "They cannot be serious," one of the generals, a grizzled veteran with a heavily scared face, growled. "Do they truly believe we will simply roll over and accept their demands?" Varys raised a hand, silencing the room. "That is precisely what they expect, my friends, but I say we prove them wrong. We have stood against oppression and tyranny before, and we shall do so again." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the faces of his fellow commanders. "The time has come to show the Galactic Empire the true might of the unified human defense forces." A chorus of cheers and shouts of agreement erupted, the room alive with a palpable sense of determination. Varys allowed himself a grim smile, knowing that the die had been cast. The humans would stand their ground, no matter the cost. As the Imperial fleet amassed on the edge of the human system, the legate's eyes narrowed, his expression one of cold calculation. "So be it," he murmured, his finger hovering over the command console. "The humans have made their choice. Now they shall face the consequences." With a decisive motion, he activated the comlink, his voice resonating through the bridge of the flagship. "All ships, commence bombardment. Reduce their cities to ashes and their armies to dust. Show them the price of defiance." The Imperial fleet surged forward, its turbolasers and missile batteries unleashing a devastating barrage upon the human homeworld. Plumes of fire and debris blossomed across the planet's surface as the humans scrambled to mount a desperate defense. In the chaos, Varys and his fellow commanders marshaled their forces, their eyes burning with a fierce determination. They had fought oppression before, and they would do so again, no matter the cost. "This is our home," Varys declared, his voice carrying over the din of battle. "We will not surrender it to the Empire, nor will we bend to their will. We fight for our freedom, and we will prevail." A roar of agreement echoed through the ranks of the unified defense forces as they steeled themselves for the coming onslaught. The fate of the human race now hung in the balance as they prepared to face the might of the Galactic Empire head-on. The skies above the human homeworld erupted in a maelstrom of fire and chaos as the Imperial fleet unleashed its devastating assault. Turbolaser blasts and missile barrages rained down upon the cities and military installations below, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Yet, to the growing confusion and alarm of the Imperial commanders, the human defenders refused to be cowed. Sleek, agile fighter craft darted between the lumbering Imperial warships, unleashing a withering hail of laser fire and precision-guided missiles. Mighty anti-air batteries thundered to life, their powerful plasma cannons piercing the shields of the invading vessels. General Varys stood on the bridge of the human command center, his eyes narrowed as he studied the holo display. "Increase power to the forward shields," he barked, his voice calm and steady. "Prepare the heavy ion cannon for a precision strike on their command ship." Around him, the human crew members moved with a practiced efficiency, their fingers dancing across the consoles as they executed the general's orders. Within moments, the heavy cannon mounted on the human flagship let out a thunderous roar, its devastating energy beam lancing through the void to strike the Imperial command vessel. The legate's eyes widened in shock as the bridge of his flagship shuddered under the impact, sparks and debris raining down around him. "Impossible," he snarled, gripping the edge of the holo table as he fought to maintain his balance. "How dare these primitives defy the might of the Galactic Empire?" On the human side, Varys allowed himself a grim smile as he watched the legate's flagship reel under the ion cannon's onslaught. "Primitives, are we?" he murmured, his voice laced with a hint of amusement. "We shall see about that." As the battle raged on, the true extent of human military prowess became increasingly clear to the bewildered Imperial forces. Their advanced weaponry, lightning-fast reflexes, and unparalleled tactical acumen confounded the seasoned Imperial commanders, who had grown accustomed to the quick and decisive victories that had characterized their previous campaigns. Wave after wave of human fighters and bombers streaked through the skies, their ordnance wreaking havoc on the Imperial fleet. Heavily armored ground forces, wielding a mix of sophisticated energy weapons and cutting-edge exoskeleton suits, pushed back the Imperial ground forces with ruthless efficiency. The legate, his face twisted in a mask of rage and disbelief, watched helplessly as his carefully laid plans unraveled before his eyes. "Impossible," he muttered, his knuckles turning white as he gripped the console. "This cannot be happening. We are the Galactic Empire. We are _invincible_." Yet, as the battle raged on, the reality of the situation became increasingly clear. The humans were no mere primitives to be easily crushed. They were a force to be reckoned with, their technological prowess and unwavering determination proving to be a formidable match for the might of the Imperial war machine. Varys, his gaze unwavering, issued a series of rapid-fire commands, his voice cutting through the chaos of the battle. "All units, press the advantage. Concentrate fire on their supply lines and logistics hubs. We must cripple their ability to sustain this assault." The human forces surged forward, their weapons blazing, as they systematically dismantled the Imperial invasion force. Caught off guard by the relentless onslaught, the legate could only watch in mounting horror as his mighty fleet was pushed back, their once vaunted superiority crumbling in the face of the human resistance. "Retreat," he finally growled, his voice barely audible over the din of the battle. "All ships, fall back and regroup. We shall return with overwhelming force and crush these humans once and for all." As the battered Imperial fleet limped away, Varys and the human commanders exchanged triumphant glances. The first round had gone to them, but they knew that the war had only just begun. "They have underestimated us," Varys said, his voice tinged with a mixture of relief and grim determination. "But we cannot afford to do the same. The Galactic Empire will be back, and we must be ready." The human homeworld, scared but unbowed, stood as a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of its people. The galaxy had been forever changed, and the mighty Galactic Empire had been given a stark and unforgiving warning. The humans were not to be trifled with. The Imperial war machine, its pride wounded by the humiliating defeat at the hands of the human defenders, mobilized with a renewed sense of determination and fury. Massive fleets of warships, bristling with advanced weaponry, converged on the human homeworld, their sights set on a decisive victory. From the bridge of the flagship, the legate's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the vast armada arrayed before him. "This time, we shall not be so easily thwarted," he growled, his voice laced with a deadly edge. "The humans will learn the true price of their defiance." The subsequent battles that erupted across the human system were savage and unrelenting, as the Imperial forces unleashed the full might of their military might. Wave after wave of ground troops, supported by towering mechanized walkers and hovering assault vehicles, pushed deep into human-held territory, their blasters and plasma cannons carving a path of destruction. In the skies above, the human pilots once again demonstrated their mastery of aerial combat, their nimble fighters dancing through the maelstrom of laser fire and missiles. But for every Imperial vessel they brought down, two more seemed to take its place, the sheer numerical superiority of the invaders proving to be a formidable challenge. General Varys, his brow furrowed in concentration, issued a series of rapid-fire orders, his voice calm and measured despite the chaos that surrounded him. "Divert power to the forward shields. Concentrate fire on their supply convoys and troop transports. We must disrupt their ability to sustain this onslaught." The human forces responded with a fierce determination, their weapons blazing as they fought to hold their ground against the Imperial juggernaut. But the relentless pressure of the invasion took its toll, and slowly but surely, the human defenders were forced to cede territory to the advancing Imperial legions. Watching the unfolding battle from the relative safety of the command center, Varys felt a growing sense of unease. "They are adapting," he murmured, his gaze fixed on the holo display. "Their tactics, their technology. It's all evolving to counter our strengths." Beside him, a young lieutenant nodded, her face drawn with exhaustion. "Yes, sir. It's as if they're learning from every engagement, refining their strategies to overcome our advantages." Varys sighed, his hands clenching into fists. "Then we must do the same. Redouble our efforts, find new ways to disrupt their advance. We cannot afford to lose ground to these invaders." As the weeks turned into months, the conflict raged on, with neither side willing to back down. The Imperial forces, buoyed by their seemingly endless resources and manpower, pressed their advantage, unleashing ever more devastating weapons and tactics in a bid to break the human resistance. Yet, the humans remained unbowed, their ingenuity and adaptability proving to be a constant thorn in the side of the Imperial commanders. They developed new countermeasures to the Empire's advanced technologies, designed innovative weapons and vehicles to counter the invaders' strengths, and rallied their populace to a fever pitch of resistance. The legate, his face etched with frustration and growing unease, watched the unfolding battle from the safety of his flagship, his fingers drumming restlessly on the command console. "This is not how it was supposed to be," he muttered, his brow furrowing. "We are the Galactic Empire, the pinnacle of technological and military might. How can these humans be resisting us so fiercely?" A senior officer approached, his expression grave. "My lord, the situation is becoming increasingly dire. Our forces are being stretched thin, and the human defenders continue to find ways to disrupt our supply lines and reinforcements." The legate's eyes narrowed. "Then we must redouble our efforts. Bring in the heavy artillery, the orbital bombardment platforms. We shall crush their defenses once and for all." The officer hesitated, his gaze shifting uncomfortably. "My lord, I must caution against such drastic measures. The collateral damage could be catastrophic, and it may only serve to further inflame the human populace." The legate's lips curled into a snarl. "I will hear no more of your concerns, fool. The time for caution has passed. We shall show these humans the true might of the Galactic Empire, no matter the cost." As the Imperial forces prepared to unleash their most devastating weapons, the human defenders braced themselves for the impending onslaught. Varys, his eyes burning with a fierce determination, rallied his troops, his voice ringing out with a note of defiance. We have fought them to a standstill, my friends. Now we shall show them the true extent of our resolve. For our homes, our families, our freedom, we will not yield. The stage was set for a climactic showdown, as the Galactic Empire and the human forces hurtled towards a confrontation that would decide the fate of an entire civilization. As the dust settled on the latest round of brutal engagements, the Imperial High Command found itself grappling with a growing sense of unease and foreboding. The human defenders, once dismissed as little more than primitive upstarts, had proven to be a far more formidable foe than anyone in the Galactic Empire could have imagined. The legate, his expression etched with a mixture of anger and trepidation, pored over the latest reports from the front lines, his brow furrowed in deep thought. "This cannot be," he muttered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the command center. "How can these humans be matching us at every turn?" A senior officer, his face weary with the strain of the prolonged conflict, cleared his throat nervously. "My lord, the situation is indeed dire. Our forces have been unable to break through the human defensive lines, despite committing ever greater resources and employing our most devastating weaponry." The legate's gaze snapped up, his eyes narrowing. "Impossible. The Galactic Empire's military might is unparalleled. How can a mere handful of primitives stand against the full force of our armies?" The officer hesitated, his gaze shifting uncomfortably. "That is precisely the question we must grapple with, my lord. These primitives are proving to be anything but. Their technological prowess, their strategic acumen, their sheer tenacity. It defies all our expectations." The legate's fingers drummed against the console, his mind racing. "Then we have clearly underestimated them. These humans must possess some hidden advantage, some technological edge that we have failed to account for." Nodding, the officer gestured towards the holographic display, which was now dominated by a series of schematics and sensor readings. "Our latest intelligence suggests that the humans have developed advanced energy-based weapons, capable of penetrating even the most sophisticated shielding systems. Their fighter craft are engineered with unprecedented maneuverability, and their ground forces employ a level of cybernetic augmentation that far exceeds anything we've encountered before." The legate's eyes widened, the implications of this revelation slowly sinking in. Cybernetic augmentation, energy-based weaponry, unparalleled maneuverability. He shook his head, his expression darkening. "This is no mere primitive civilization we are facing. These humans, they are something more. Turning to the officer, the legate's voice hardened. "Dispatch a team of our best intelligence operatives. I want a comprehensive report on the full extent of human technological and military capabilities. We cannot afford any more surprises." As the officer hurried to carry out the orders, the legate's gaze drifted back to the holographic display, his mind racing with the implications of this dire revelation. If the humans truly possessed such advanced capabilities, then the very foundations of the Galactic Empire's dominance could be at risk. "This is no mere rebellion," the legate murmured, his fingers tightening on the edge of the console. "These humans, they are a threat unlike any we have faced before." Across the sprawling human homeworld, the mood was one of cautious optimism, tinged with a growing sense of unease. General Varys, his face etched with a mixture of triumph and concern, gathered his senior commanders for an emergency briefing. "My friends, we have won a great victory against the Imperial invaders," he began, his voice carrying a note of relief. "But we must not let our guard down. The Empire has been forced to retreat, but we know they will return, and in greater force." A grizzled veteran, his uniform bearing the scars of countless battles, spoke up. "General, the latest reports suggest the Empire is mobilizing its full might. They are deploying their most advanced weapons and technologies against us. We've managed to hold them off so far, but I fear that the true extent of their power has yet to be revealed." Varys nodded grimly. "Precisely my concern. The Empire has underestimated us, and in doing so, they have revealed their own weaknesses. But we cannot afford to make the same mistake. We must prepare for the worst, for the Empire will stop at nothing to bring us to heel. As the commanders discussed the grim implications of this revelation, a growing sense of unease settled over the human homeworld. The Galactic Empire was no longer an abstract threat, but a formidable foe that had been forced to acknowledge the true power of the human race. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy, as the Galactic Empire faced the realization that the humans were not mere primitives, but a force to be reckoned with. The Imperial Command Center buzzed with a palpable sense of tension as the legate pored over the latest intelligence reports, his brow furrowed in deep concentration. The realization that the human defenders were far more capable than anyone had anticipated had shaken the foundations of the Galactic Empire, and the legate knew that he could no longer afford to underestimate this formidable foe. "They have evaded our best efforts to break their defenses," the legate muttered, his gaze fixed on the holographic display before him. "Their technological prowess and tactical acumen continue to confound our most seasoned commanders." A high-ranking officer, his uniform pristine and his posture rigid, approached the legate's position. "My lord, we have exhausted our conventional military options. The humans have proven adept at anticipating and countering our every move." The legate's eyes narrowed. "Then we must take more drastic measures. Summon the Grand Admiral and the Chief of the Imperial Science Division. It is time we unleash the full might of the Empire's most devastating weapons." The officer's eyes widened, a flicker of unease crossing his features. "My lord, you cannot be suggesting that we—" "I am," the legate interrupted, his voice sharp and unyielding. "We have been far too lenient in our approach thus far. It is time to show these humans the true price of their defiance." As the Grand Admiral and the Chief of the Imperial Science Division arrived, the legate laid out his plan, his voice low and measured. "The humans have proven to be a greater threat than we anticipated. Their technological capabilities have allowed them to withstand our conventional forces. It is time we unleash the Empire's most potent weapons, the orbital bombardment platforms and the experimental superlaser." The Grand Admiral's brow furrowed. "My lord, the collateral damage from such weapons would be catastrophic. Entire cities could be reduced to ashes, and millions of innocent lives would be lost." The legate's gaze hardened. "I am well aware of the risks, Admiral, but the stability and continued dominance of the Galactic Empire is at stake. We cannot afford to show weakness or hesitation in the face of this threat." The Chief of the Imperial Science Division, a wizened, bespectacled man, spoke up. "The superlaser, in particular, is an untested and highly volatile weapon. Its power is immense, but the potential for uncontrolled destruction is equally great." The legate's expression remained unmoved. "I have made my decision. Prepare the orbital bombardment platforms and ready the superlaser. We shall strike swiftly and decisively, crushing the human resistance once and for all." As the assembled officers reluctantly carried out the legate's orders, a growing sense of unease settled over the Imperial command. They knew that the use of such devastating weapons would have far-reaching consequences, both for the humans and for the Empire itself. On the human homeworld, General Varys and his commanders gathered in the war room, their faces etched with a mixture of determination and concern. "The Imperial fleet is massing for another assault," Varys announced, his voice grave. "And this time, they appear to be deploying their most powerful weapons." A young lieutenant, her eyes shining with a fierce resolve, spoke up. "Then we must be ready to meet them head-on. Our forces have held the line thus far, and we shall do so again, no matter the cost." Varys nodded, his gaze sweeping across the assembled commanders. "Indeed, but we must also be prepared for the worst. These new Imperial weapons could be unlike anything we have faced before. We must be vigilant, and we must be willing to adapt our strategies as the situation demands." As the human forces braced themselves for the impending onslaught, the legate watched from the bridge of the Imperial flagship, his fingers drumming against the console. "Begin the bombardment," he ordered, his voice betraying a hint of uncertainty. "Let the humans see the true power of the Galactic Empire." The orbital platforms unleashed a devastating barrage, their powerful energy beams lancing down from the sky and raining destruction upon the human cities and military installations. The ground shook with the force of the impacts, and plumes of smoke and debris rose into the atmosphere. On the human side, Varys and his commanders scrambled to mount a defense, their eyes widening in alarm as they witnessed the devastation wrought by the Imperial onslaught. "Impossible," Varys breathed, his fingers flying across the console as he desperately tried to coordinate a response. "These weapons, they are beyond anything we've encountered before." But even as the human forces struggled to hold their ground, a new threat emerged: the activation of the Imperial superlaser. A massive beam of concentrated energy lanced across the void, slamming into the heart of the human capital. With a blinding flash and a deafening roar, the legate watched with a grim satisfaction as the superlaser struck its target, the shockwave rippling outwards and reducing the once proud city to rubble. "At last," he murmured, "the humans have been brought to heel." Yet, even as the legate basked in his apparent victory, a growing sense of unease began to take hold. For the smoke cleared, revealing that the human defenders had not been crushed, but had instead adapted and evolved in the face of this devastating onslaught. The stage was set for a final, climactic confrontation, as the Galactic Empire's most potent weapons had failed to break the human spirit. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the legate knew that he had gambled everything on this desperate gambit. The devastation wrought by the Imperial bombardment was staggering, with entire cities reduced to smoldering ruins and millions of lives lost. Yet even as the smoke cleared, the human defenders refused to be cowed. Battered but unbowed, they rallied their forces, their determination to resist the Imperial onslaught burning brighter than ever before. General Varys, his face etched with a mixture of grief and resolute fury, stood before his assembled commanders, his voice ringing out with a note of defiance. "They have struck us a terrible blow, my friends, but we will not surrender, not now, not ever. The Galactic Empire has underestimated us, and now they will face the full fury of a people who will not be subjugated." A chorus of cheers and shouts of agreement echoed through the war room, the human soldiers and officers fueled by a newfound sense of purpose. Varys raised a hand, silencing the room. "We shall take the fight to the Empire. No more will we be content to simply defend our homeworld. We shall cripple their ability to wage this war, to sustain their invasion. Every Imperial stronghold, every supply line, every logistics hub, they shall all fall before the might of the unified human defense forces." The human commanders, their eyes burning with determination, began to lay out their plans, their voices quickening with a sense of urgency. Precision strikes, coordinated assaults, and strategic sabotage. Every element of the human strategy was designed to disrupt the Imperial war machine, to sever the Empire's lifelines, and leave them vulnerable. As the human forces sprang into action, the legate and his subordinates watched in mounting horror. The Imperial fleet, once poised to deliver the decisive blow, found itself increasingly battered and outmaneuvered by the human counteroffensive. "Impossible," the legate growled, his fingers digging into the edge of the command console. "How can they be so relentless underscore?" A junior officer, his face pale with fear, stepped forward, his voice trembling. "My lord, our supply convoys are being systematically targeted and destroyed. We are losing the ability to maintain our foothold on the human homeworld." The legate's eyes narrowed, his expression darkening. "Then we must redouble our efforts. Dispatch additional forces to reinforce our positions. We shall not be driven back by these _humans_. But as the Imperial reinforcements arrived, they too found themselves caught in the web of the human resistance. Sleek fighter craft darted through the skies, their laser cannons blazing, while heavily armored ground forces and mechanized walkers cut a swath through the Imperial ranks. The legate watched in mounting despair as his carefully laid plans unraveled before his eyes. "No," he muttered, his voice laced with a growing sense of panic. "This cannot be happening. We are the Galactic Empire. We are unstoppable. Yet, as the battle raged on, it became increasingly clear that the human forces were anything but unstoppable. Their tactics, their technology, their sheer tenacity, it was as if they were anticipating every move the Imperial commanders made, adapting and evolving to counter their every advantage. Varys, his eyes narrowed in concentration, directed the human forces with a steady hand, his voice calm and measured even as the chaos of battle raged around him. "Press the advantage," he barked, his orders relayed through the command network. "Target their supply lines, their communication hubs, their staging areas. We must cripple their ability to sustain this invasion." The human soldiers, their morale buoyed by the promise of victory, fought with a renewed vigor, their weapons blazing as they pushed deeper into Imperial-held territory. The once mighty Galactic Empire found itself on the defensive, its vaunted military supremacy crumbling in the face of the human onslaught. The legate, his face etched with a mixture of fury and despair, watched helplessly as his forces were pushed back, his grip on the human homeworld slipping through his fingers. "Retreat," he spat, his voice laced with a grudging defeat. "All ships, fall back and regroup. We shall return with greater numbers and overwhelming force." As the battered Imperial fleet limped away, Varys and the human commanders exchanged triumphant glances, their eyes shining with a sense of hard-won victory. "They have been pushed back," Varys announced, his voice carrying a note of grim satisfaction. "But we know they will return. We must be vigilant, my friends, for the true test is yet to come." The human homeworld, scared and battered but still standing, had proven itself to be a force to be reckoned with. The Galactic Empire, once the undisputed masters of the galaxy, had been forced to retreat in the face of human ingenuity and determination. The stage was set for the final confrontation, as the two powers hurtled towards a decisive clash that would determine the fate of the entire galaxy. The legate, his face etched with a mixture of frustration and resignation, stood before the Imperial High Command, his voice tight with barely restrained emotion. "The humans have proven more resilient than we anticipated," he began, his gaze sweeping across the assembled officers. "Despite the full might of the Galactic Empire being brought to bear, they have continued to resist our advances, inflicting devastating losses on our forces." A tense silence settled over the room as the legate's words sank in. The once unstoppable juggernaut of the Imperial war machine had been battered and pushed back, its vaunted superiority challenged by a species it had so casually dismissed. "My lord," a senior admiral spoke up, her voice tinged with a hint of trepidation. "What do you propose we do? The human forces have shown themselves to be a force to be reckoned with, and our conventional tactics have proven ineffective." The legate's jaw tightened. "We have no choice but to sue for peace. The humans have made it clear that they will not submit to our rule, and we cannot afford to continue this costly conflict." Murmurs of shock and disbelief rippled through the room as the Imperial officers struggled to comprehend the gravity of the legate's words. "Peace." One of the generals spat, his face contorted with a mixture of anger and bewilderment. "We are the Galactic Empire, the masters of the galaxy. How can we possibly negotiate with these upstarts? The legate raised a hand, silencing the outburst. "I understand your frustration, but the reality is that we have been outmatched, outmaneuvered, and outmatched by the human forces. Continuing this war will only lead to further erosion of our military might and the Empire's eventual downfall." Reluctantly, the assembled officers nodded, the weight of the legate's words settling heavily upon them. The Galactic Empire, a civilization that had once seemed invincible, had been forced to acknowledge the existence of a new power in the galaxy, one that refused to be cowed or subjugated. As the terms of the peace treaty were hammered out, the human delegates, led by General Varys, carried themselves with a quiet dignity and resolve. They had fought a hard-won battle, and they were determined to ensure that the Galactic Empire would never again threaten their independence and way of life. We demand the complete withdrawal of all Imperial forces from our homeworld and the surrounding systems, Varys declared, his voice firm and unwavering. In addition, we require the Empire to recognize our sovereignty and agree to a non-aggression pact, ensuring that our people will never again be subjected to its tyrannical rule. The Imperial representatives, their faces etched with a mixture of resentment and resignation, reluctantly agreed to the terms, knowing that they had little choice but to capitulate to the human demands. As the treaty was signed and the Imperial fleet began its slow, humiliating retreat, a tangible sense of triumph and relief swept through the human populace. The long, arduous struggle had been worth it. Their homeworld and their freedom had been secured, and the mighty Galactic Empire had been forced to acknowledge their power and resilience. Varys, his gaze fixed on the receding Imperial vessels, allowed himself a rare smile. "We have shown them the true measure of the human spirit," he murmured, his voice tinged with a sense of pride and accomplishment. "They will never again underestimate us, nor will they dare to threaten our way of life." In the years that followed, the events of the human-imperial conflict would reverberate throughout the galaxy, ushering in a new era of power dynamics and shifting alliances. The Galactic Empire, once the undisputed ruler of the stars, had been forced to cede its dominance to the rising human civilization, a civilization that had proven its worth through its unwavering determination, its technological prowess, and its sheer tenacity in the face of overwhelming odds. The human homeworld, once a distant and obscure outpost, now stood as a beacon of hope and inspiration, a testament to the indomitable power of the human spirit. Across the galaxy, other civilizations took note, their own aspirations for independence and self-determination bolstered by the example set by the humans. The legate, his once proud career in ruins, retreated into obscurity, his legacy forever tarnished by his failure to subjugate the upstart human race. The Galactic Empire, once the epitome of power and influence, now found itself on the defensive, forced to reckon with the reality of a new world order in which the humans held a position of respect and influence. As the dust settled, Varys and the human leadership turned their attention to the task of rebuilding and strengthening their fledgling nation, determined to forge a future that would stand as a shining example of what could be achieved through unity, innovation, and an unyielding commitment to freedom. The galaxy had been forever changed, and the Galactic Empire had been given a stark and unforgiving warning. The humans were not to be trifled with.